Thank you. That's your dollar Amud base on the bottom. I'm sorry. You dollar Amud Aleph on the bottom. You dollar Amud Aleph. You dollar Amud Aleph on the bottom. What's that? Amana Sisa. So it came in Agav. The Mishnah was talking about Machlekes Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yeshua as far as a woman who's pregnant, Pnuya, pregnant, and says that it's a kosher man. Rabbi Gamliel trusts her, Rabbi Yeshua doesn't. And the more the contradiction, that was Abayis Kasha. Where's that? That we see opposite machlokes because and Rabbi points out that both ways, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, Almana Sisa, which we'll find that right away what that is, some kind of a suffix about a woman if she's a puzzle, because she had relations with some kind of a Isa. Isa literally means a dough. It means somebody that's mixed up, like a dough is mixed up with flour and water or other ingredients. So there's some kind of a balagan about this person. And a suffix on this almana, this widow that she was married to him, if she became puzzle to marry a Kohen. So Yeshua says kosher. And over there, Gamliel says that even though Minadin you're right, but Mirabanan, the minig is not to marry a Kohen. And the more contradiction on both ways. The more both Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, but yes, Rabbi Yeshua is machmer, Rabbi Gamliel is mekel. Over there, it's the opposite. Rabbi Yeshua is mekel and Rabbi Gamliel is machmer. And the more the answer was that Rabbi Gamliel is mekel because of a bari. A bari impresses Rabbi Gamliel, and if she says she knows that the man is kosher, so we trust her. The Gemara said before, maybe together with a migu and a chazaka. And Rabbi Yeshua is impressed with his fake sveka. In the case of the Almana Sisa, it's going to be a fake sveka, which we don't know what that is. We're going to find that right now. And therefore, in the Mishnah of Bayas, Rabbi Gamliel is mekel, Rabbi Yeshua is machmir, because there's a bari, but there's no spek sveka. And the case of the Almana Sisa is the opposite, that Rabbi Yeshua is mekel because of a spek sveka, and Rabbi Gamliel is not impressed with that, and he's going to be machmir. That's as far as we got yesterday. And now it goes into Tan Rabban and what's an Almana Sisa, which the truth is that the Gemara is going to go over to a different subject altogether. And what Almana Sisa, and what we would ask, what's Almana Sisa? There's a Machlokes Rishonim over here. What is that? Here it is, Almana Sisa, the widow of an Isa, the widow of a dough, Dough. So what's the widow of a dough? So this dough means some problem in his lineage. So what is that? So the simplest shot which we pass on like is Taisvis. That means that in this family, in the Cohen family, a certain family, Cohen family, there's mixed up over there a suffix cholo. Means there's two issues. That's why it says spek because there's somebody over there. We don't know who it is. There's somebody or a couple of people that are suffix cholo. That not that there's a varay cholo mixed in. We don't know what it is. Only one suffix. Each man of that family, they don't know if he's the cholo or not. But even that man, whoever it is also only a suffix cholo. So it's a family that mixed into the family is a suffix cholo. So there's two. That's why it's called a spek because you don't know which man it is, and even the man that it is only a suffix. And that's how Taisvis learns. Rashi has other pshatim, two pshatim Rashi brings down, but the easiest one is Taisvis, and I think that's why you paskin also. So that's the case. We'll just take it that's why it's called a spek before. That's why it's going to be called that suffix got mixed in the family, nitmu with the iron, that it got mixed in because we don't know in the family who's that suffix cholo. So here you have a case of a widow of a Kohen from that family, but she doesn't know if her husband was that suffix cholo. So is she allowed to marry a Kohen? That was something we learned yesterday. Just we didn't know what it was. So that's the case. Almana Sisa means the widow of a man who is of a family of a suffix cholo is mixed in over there. Okay, that was the halacha. Yeshua says kosher. Rabbi Gamliel says Minadin you're right, but the Kohenim Machmir Rabbi Zakai doesn't make a bezdin to be matir to marry a Kohen because they're machmir. They don't want to shomul l'rachek. They don't want to be mekel on this. That they themselves made a chomer not to marry such a kind of almana sisa. Okay, and Rabbi Yeshua says it's okay because it's a spek. Rabbi Gamliel says to be machmir because there's no bori over there. She herself doesn't know. Tan Rabbanan. There's a price that's going to go on to an aspect about this, but it's not going to say what we just said. We just said Basal Almana Sisa. We have to have Taisvis in order to explain what Almana Sisa is. But now the Gemara goes into some other point about it. That's that there's no shash about a mamzer being mixed over there. It means it's only a suffix color. That in the family, she's from a family, she married a man who's from a family where there's a suffix color. But not that there's a suffix mamzer, not that there's a suffix nasin, not that there's a suffix eved. Avdei Malachim would mean also eved. Avdei Malachim, like the Gemara says some places, Avdei Shlomo, that some of the servants of Shlomo became powerful and they really only abadim, and they might have married. That's a suffix married and eved. So the first thing he says is that Tanakama seems to say, we're not talking about such kind of fakers, we're just talking about a suffix cholo, that maybe there's a psul kuna. What does a cholo mean? Somebody who's a kosher Jew, but he's not a kosher Kohen. He became Nischalo, the father, his father, the Kohen, married a Grusha, and that's how he was born, because he was the result of a marriage of as Asa to a Kohen. So the son that's born as a cholo. And in that case, we said a suffix cholo, someplace in this family is mixed up a suffix cholo. But the Tanakama says we're not talking about if there's mixed up over there a suffix mamzer or a suffix nosin or a suffix avdim melachim. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, sounds good so far. That the Almana Sisa is only a leniency in a suffix color. That's Tanakama. There's going to be 3 sheetahs in this brisa. I just made the different colors in order to help up, because we're going to have the 3 sheetahs being spoken about. The first one, Tanakama, is in yellow. Rav Meir is the second one. Rav Meir, Shamati. I heard that whoever doesn't have one of the above is allowed to marry the Kohen, which sounds identical to what we just said. If it doesn't have one of the 3 above, there's no suffix mamzer, there's no suffix nasin, there's no suffix eved. So then she's allowed to marry the kuna, because that's called Almana Sisa, that she's a widow of somebody who's a family, that one of the family is a suffix color. Okay, that's what we said, that the only kula is by a suffix color, not by one of the above. The above being a suffix mamzer, suffix nasin, suffix eved. Okay, so far it sounds the same. The Gemara have a problem that it seems to be redundant. And then there's a third opinion in the brisa, which is highlighted in blue. As same as Rabbi Elazar, Mishum ben Elazar in the name of Rabbi Meir. Whoever, any family that it became mixed into it, the word nitma is not with the hey, it doesn't mean aleph, nun testament, it doesn't mean tameh, it means nitma with an ayin, which means that it got mixed into it. It got lost into it, a suffix color, which that's what we said the whole time. That's what Isa is. Almana Isa means the widow of marriage to a Kohen from a family, that somebody in that family is a suffix color. We don't know if that's the man, and even that man is only a suffix color. So they all seem to be saying the same thing. And the brisa continues. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar finishes off. Makirun Yisrael mamzerim shebeneim, and makirun chalolin shebeneim. Am Yisrael knows the mamzerim. They keep track of the mamzerim, and they're publicized. We know who the mamzerim are, but we don't know the chalolim. It could be that the chalol is not so known. So that's the brisa. We have Tanakama, Rav Meir, and Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in the name of Rav Meir, and we don't really know what's happening. I mean, everyone seems to be saying more or less the same thing. That Almana Sisa means widow of a Kohen from a family that we don't know who there's somebody in the family or a few people in the family that are suffix cholo, and we don't know if this is the man that she married, if he's the suffix cholo or not. Even if it is, it's only a suffix, and therefore she's allowed to marry a Kohen. What did the Tanakhama say? Provided there's no suffix mamzer, nasin, or eved, and the mayor seemed to agree that if it doesn't have one of the above, so it's not a married Kohen, which seems to be the same thing. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says in the name of Rabbi Meir, the Almana Sisa, where there's a suffix kolo, nitma bas suffix kolo. He adds on that Am Yisrael, sometimes it got forgotten who's the kolo, so we don't really see what the issue of the whole brisa is talking about. And that's what the Gemara is going to do now. It's going to analyze this whole sugya, the whole sugya we're learning today. I mean, at least this first sugya, told the Mishnah, is all agav. It's not our subject at all. We're talking about the case of the Mishnah where a woman is pregnant and we don't know who the Boel was, and she says that I'm a chalak something with Rishua. The only reason why he came in is second, like yesterday's Gemara came in to ask contradiction of whether Rishua contradicted themselves. They Rav Gamliel Bayas is Mekel over there is Machmir, Rav Rishua Bayas is Machmir, there is Mekel. That was what the Gemara finished up yesterday. That according to Rishua, he goes with the Svek Sveka, to be Mekel, Rav Gamliel goes with the Bori. But now, agav that, we bring in this sugi who has nothing to do with us. So we have a brisa which we don't. What should be the difference? The mamzer, the nasin, the eved, they're all absul deraisa, And he's saying that a suffix, if it have such a kind of a suffix, if she would have married, she'd be the alman of a family which mixed in a suffix mamzer or a suffix nasin, suffix cholol, mamzer cholol, or I'm sorry, mamzer nasin or eved, then you wouldn't be making. She'd be pastel tekuna. But if it's mixed in a suffix cholol, that's why you make it. What's the difference? They're all deraisa. The Gemara doesn't understand the difference. How come you make a more by a suffix cholol and one of the people in the family is a suffix cholol? Why you make a more than if one of the people in the family is a suffix mamzer? A woman married into a family that someplace in the family there's a suffix mamzer running around. We don't know who it is. So the same reason you make it by a suffix cholol that you don't know. Again, it's not that she definitely married the suffix cholol. She married somebody into the family. This family Katz, family Cohen, whatever it might be, a Cohen's family, that there's a suffix cholol mixed into the family. There's a suffix cholol in the family someplace, and she doesn't know if she got that one. So it says you didn't make it if it's a suffix. You gotta make it by a suffix cholol. And a suffix mamzer and nasin. What?
Because it's a fake faker. Is that the reason?
It sounds like it. Yeah, that's what the Gemara said yesterday, because it's fake faker. I'm sure it's maker. And but if it will be a case also that in some place in the family is a suffix mamzer, and she doesn't know if she married him, also have a fake faker. So what's the difference? That's the first question on the Tanakama. Then the Gemara goes on Rav Meir, who's highlighted before in green, the Su. Second of all, what does the Bryce say? Rav Meir Shemati Kol Shein Ba'achas Mikalela Masin Lakuna. That he says if it doesn't have one of the three above, they're allowed to marry to the Kohen. Hainu Tanakama. That's what the Tanakama said. That if it's only a suffix cholol doesn't have one of these three, suffix mamzer, suffix nasin, suffix eved, that it's mutter. So that's what the Tanakama said, mamish word for word, not the word for word, but the same idea. That if there's a family that has within it a suffix cholol, the woman who married into that family doesn't become puzzle. So that's what Ramey said also. If it doesn't have one of the three above, so it's kosher. So they're saying the same thing. The Rashi sounds like some machlokes. And then the third opinion of the Rashi was of Shimon Elazar, Mishim of Meir, the kind of Shimon Menashe Omer Kedvarav. What did he say? The whole quote of Ezel, Amanasisa, Koshin Itmabas Safakola, Makim Niswam Mamzer and Shemenei, Ben Makim Chala Shemenei, Mamish word, that's quoting the Brisa. And the Kasha is Vahamid Resha, Cholol kosher. Before he said, there are one of the things that's contradicting himself. This last statement that says that we don't know the halalim, Am Yisrael forgets about the halalim. They don't keep track of the halalim. That seems to be saying that we're not gonna be makeups because they get forgotten. So that was it seems to say it's contradicting his first words. His first words say that means that you're allowed to, she doesn't become pasal lakuna. And then he himself seemed to contradict himself that he says Am Yisrael, they recognize, they remember the mamzerim that are mixed in between them, but they forget about the halalim. It seems to be saying that if you have to be machmir. So the Gemara has three kashas. The first kasha was, why is Tanakama differentiate between a suffix cholo and a suffix mamzer, etc. Second kasha is, what's Rav Meir saying different than the Tanakama? And the third kasha is that Rav Shimon Elazar seems to contradict himself. First he says that Almana says kosher, and then he seems to say something that gives the impression that Almana says puzzle. Those are the three problems.
Maybe the base din on the Chachamim are not they don't oversee
It gets low, not to a business. There's no overseeing. Nowadays, every Rabbanut with the records, it doesn't. But here it says that they get forgotten. They got the halalim got forgotten, and therefore it sounds like you have to be machmir or something. That's what the Gemara seems to take it. The Gemara is going to change the whole shot, but that's what the Gemara seems to think. So just to get the answer, the Gemara is going to say one answer and then explain the whole brisa. That the whole subject is not what we thought it's talking about. The issue is going to be if you call him, somebody calls him a cholol. Let's say somebody calls somebody a mamzer. He says, someone calls him, you're a mamzer. And he screams back, I'm not a mamzer. Okay, but what if he's quiet? It gets suspicious. How come he doesn't answer? So here it says, the issue is by a cholol. A cholol shows it. They talk about the words mamzer tzavech. Some take out the words mamzer tzavech. It's not so clear what that means. Well, we could take it out. Some take out the word mamzer tzavech. It makes it a little bit easier. The words literally mean that when you call him a mamzer, he screams. But we can leave out those words. Cholol b'shos sekika b'nai. The case is that you call him a cholol. Someone calls him, screams, gives him a bad name. He says you're a cholol, and he doesn't reply. He doesn't answer back. The human reaction would be that if someone's kosher and they call him a puzzle, he would speak up and say it's not true. The fact that he was quiet, that gives suspicion that maybe he knows that he's puzzle. So the whole that's what the Gemara is going to say. The whole subject of the Brisa. This is a new invention that we don't see in the Brisa, but that's what the Gemara is explaining the Brisa. It means the Brisa is not coming to talk about what the Almana Sisa. Almana Sisa, we know what it is, and there's also the same thing. No difference if it's a suffix cholo mixed into the family or there's a suffix mamzer mixed into the family. The Gemara doesn't see the difference. Like the first Gemara's kasha, what's the difference? Everything's a suffix deraisa. That was his kasha over here in the yellow. Mashna harch deraisa, chol nami deraisa. The Gemara is saying there's no difference. As far as the suffix mixed in, there's no difference. If there's a suffix mamzer fixed into a family and someone married from that family, so he doesn't know if she got that one, and even if she did a suffix mamzer, we're not going to make her puzzle because it's a sveka. That's not what the Brisa is talking about. The Brisa is talking about a new factor that rouses suspicion. That when you call him a chalal, he doesn't say anything. You could say someone gives him a bad name.
All kinds of people are suspicious of some of their.
No, it's not a Avera. He's not a Avera. He was born. He's a Ramon. And in the lineage, if someone you call somebody a name and he doesn't answer, it's arouses suspicion. Why doesn't he say something? The Gemara's going to talk about. Sometimes it doesn't think he has to answer, but here it talks about the sugya the Gemara is going to be. You call him a cholo and he doesn't say anything. Does that arouse suspicion that he knows that he's a cholo?
Excuse me, Rebbe. I thought someone that's insulted and he doesn't respond. That's a good thing.
You're right, but over there it says. I think that the Chafetz Chaim himself says from this Gemara or a similar Gemara is that when someone calls him a psul yichus, he says something wrong with his lineage. He is supposed to say that it's not true. That the norm is people would. He doesn't have to start screaming back, but he has to announce that it's not true. People shouldn't get the impression that he's agreeing. So it will be the human reaction to respond. It doesn't mean that he's going to scream back and curse back and hit back, but that he has to declare that it's not true. This person is calling me a psul lineage. That's not true. I think the Chafetz Chaim. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I think the Chafetz Chaim points it out. So now, and that's what the Gemara is going to do with this new pshat that we're talking about a chol shosek. That's going to be the machlokas between Tanakama, Rav Meir, and then Rav Shimon ben Elazar in the name of Rav Meir. We're going to first explain Tanakama, and then we're going to explain Rav Meir, and then Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Again, the yellow, the green, and the blue. Tanakama Sova kol psul the korolei b'shosek pasal. Rav Tanakama says any kind of psul. If he's quiet, then we're choshesh that he's pasal. The fact that he didn't answer, not only all three of them, mamzer, nasin, Eved, and also Cholo. So even though the Brisa doesn't say that, the Brisa just says three. It's a pretty big change in the Brisa. He's not changing the words, but he's explaining that that's what it means. Tanakama said, Kol she'ein ba lo mishum mamzerus, lo mishum nesinus, lo mishum Eved, and they have to stick in also a Cholo. That only if there's no chash that he is one of these because he was quiet. So the Tanakama says, if you call him any one of these names, someone calls him a mamzer and he doesn't reply, doesn't deny it. He calls him a nasin, he doesn't deny it. He calls him a eved and he doesn't deny it. Or he calls him a cholol and he doesn't deny it. So that's a psul. Even though we're going, it's true that a suffix feka, almana sisa, any kind of anisa, not only a cholol, it will be also a mamzer that's mixed into the family, a suffix mamzer mixed into the family, a suffix nasin, a suffix eved mixed into the family, and she married one of them. It's also true that the kasha. Also, he's talking. The whole Brisa is talking about that he called him a name, and he didn't reply. Tanakama says any kind of psul that you call and he doesn't deny it, he's puzzled, and that's how it fits into the words. Bachikama Tanakama, Eizal Manasisa, Kol She'ein Ba Lo Shtuk Shesuk Mamzeres, V'Lo Shesuk Nesinos, V'Lo Shesuk Avdei Malachim, V'Lo Shesuk Cholo. Add that in also that it's only kosher. It's only considered Manasisa, which is kosher, as long as it wasn't somebody who was quiet when he was called a mamzer, that he was quiet when he was called a nasin, that he was quiet when he was called an eved, and he was quiet when he was called a chalol. If he was quiet when he was called any one of these names, well, choshesh that he's possible. That's not a kama. So it's not really the sugya of a manasisa. Manasisa, we said already what it is, but now it's coming to say that there's something that takes him out of the heter. If he doesn't deny when someone calls him a name, that itself makes the suspicion that we're going to make him puzzle. And there's not no difference between all these four cases. Mamzer, nasin, Eved and Cholol, they're all the same. If it's a regular Isa, that some of these sfekas were mixed into a family with the woman who married them would have been kosher still. But if any one of these four, when the man was called, so he didn't deny it, b'choshish that he knows that it's true. That was Tanakama. Why does the mayor argue about that? The mayor, no, Hanachu the kapas lebekol. I will still Cholol kosher. That only the first three. The Eved, how does it go? The Nas, the Mamzer, the Nasin, and the Eved over there. If you called him the name and he didn't deny it, then we're choshesh that he knows that it's true. I will still cholol kasher, but he's not impressed at the fact that he was quiet when he was called a cholol because he didn't feel it's necessary to answer him. The reason why he was quiet is because he doesn't care. It means he didn't call him a bad name. It's not as bad as being called a mamzer or a nasin or a eved. He called him a cholol. Like a loner, even though it's not true, even though he's a kohen kosher, he doesn't feel the necessity to be able to have to answer back because it's not calling him. He's not saying it's supposed to level of a kol. He's saying that he's not a kohen kosher, so he's not so moved by that he has to answer. So Meir argues on this one point. So we have machlokas. We look at what the machlokas is. This is the machlokas. Tanakama says if you call him a cholol and he's quiet, that's arouses suspicion. Maybe he's a cholol. But according to Meir, if you call him a cholol and he doesn't answer, it's not such a rousal of suspicion because it could be he doesn't care. But if you call him a mamzer or nasin or everybody holds if he's quiet, that arouses suspicion.
What's the Lashon Yenachu the Kapsile?
Where are you?
After Kamalei Rabbi
Anahu the kapasale b'kol. These are pasal. These means the ones that it says in the Brisa, the
Oh, the other ones.
mamzer, the nasin, and the eved. Over there, if you call him a name, any of these three names, and he's quiet, then it's a raya, then it's a chashash that it's true. But by the cholol is kosher. Why? Because the reason why he's quiet because he doesn't care about it. He didn't call him a big terrible name. What's the third opinion now? The opposite. The opposite of what the first opinion of Rameir. The Tanakama of Rameir means the first opinion of Rameir. Here we have a Tanakama, and then the first opinion of Rameir, and then the second opinion of Rameir. That's called Tanakama of Rameir means what and the green. That's called Tanakama. He was the one who first quoted Rameir. What does it say here? It said Amar Rav Meir. That was Tanakama of Rameir. And then you have Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in the name of Rameir. Machlok is what Rameir says. So in the green, the middle Tana, he quoted Rameir as saying that being quiet by a cholol is kosher. Being quiet by mamzer is not kosher. He should have responded if you called him a mamzer. And now Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says the opposite. It's psychology. That he's going to say the opposite. That Rav Meir, if he's machsher when he's quiet, when you call him a mamzer. If you call him a cholol and he's quiet, then it's a suspicion. Maybe he's really a cholol. But if he calls him a mamzer and he's quiet, then it's not suspicious. Why? Like the Brisa ends off that there's a cold. Mamzer has a cold. So when someone calls somebody a mamzer and nobody else knows that, so he's not scared of such a call, such a name calling, because he knows everybody else knows that. No one ever heard of this. That I'm a mamzer. So why should I be scared that one person calls me a mamzer after reply? I don't have to reply. Everybody knows, and everybody knows that since it wasn't known, that's not true. Since usually mamzerim have a call and there's no call about me, this guy is just calling me a name. So everybody realizes he's just angry at me, so he calls me a mamzer, but not that it's true. She doesn't feel like he has the answer. About mamzer v'tzavach, but they say cholol b'shosek. Again, you can take out these words if you want to. Cholol b'shosek posel, because over there, people like the Brisa says, people don't know about the mamzerim, the cholol that are amongst them. So when someone's called a cholol, he really should stand up for himself because it's not going to be so obvious to everybody that it's not a cholol. These few words Tais has a problem with. The Gemara doesn't need this last line over here because the Gemara just finished saying that the mamzer, people know who's the mamzer, and therefore someone who gets called a mamzer is not scared of that because no one else knows about it. So everybody knows that it's not true. He just called a name. But a cholol who's not known to people who's a cholol, so over there people should be scared that if someone calls him a cholol, he should stand up for himself and say it's not true because people are not going to say for sure he's not a cholol because no one knows who's a cholol. But the Gemara says a little bit more. The reason why he's quiet is because he says it's enough that they're not telling me that I'm puzzled to marry into Am Yisrael. So it's a small thing, so that's why he's quiet. The Gemara didn't need this news for it because they were the pashtus that the mamzer he doesn't feel threatened by a name calling, but by a cholol he should feel threatened by a name calling. So he should have said something. Means the more saying as far that maybe he really knows that he's puzzled, and the reason why he's quiet is because he doesn't want to get it worse. He doesn't want to get worse. He knows he's a self cholol, and he doesn't want to get himself in trouble by answering back. Then people are going to start talking and investigating. They'll find out that he's taka cholol. That's self cholol. That's the end of the Gemara. So we had a brisa which we didn't understand. The whole thing came in Agav today. So far, the whole thing is on a cruise about a point about Almana Sisa, which it doesn't even come out as Almana Sisa. It's talking about if someone was called a name and he didn't answer to deny it, does that arouse suspicion about him? And it comes out three opinions. The Tanakhama says any kind of name calling that he doesn't deny arouses suspicion. If someone's called a mamzer, a nas, and an eved or a cholol, he should have spoken up. If he doesn't, it arouses suspicion about him. The poskim say that that's only if there's a rumor about the family. If there's no rumor about the family, somebody calls somebody mamzer out of the blue, he doesn't have to defend himself because there's no suspicion at all. But here there is talking about that there's a suffix going around. So and maybe it's him, means in the family there's a suffix cholo, and is it him? So then he should deny it. So Tanakama says any name calling that he doesn't deny arouses suspicion about him. Rav Meir says, according to the two versions of Rav Meir, the Tanakama's version in Rav Meir is that if he's called the Cholol and he's quiet, it doesn't arouse suspicion because he's not so concerned about being called the Cholol. It's not as bad as being called a Mamzer. And the other opinion in Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, the name of Rav Meir, says the opposite, that a Mamzer, a person doesn't feel he has to defend himself because everybody knows that. Nobody ever heard of this, that I'm a Mamzer. And people know who a Mamzer are. So I don't have to deny it in order to defend myself. But by Cholol, he should have defended himself. And if he didn't, then he's possible. The Gemara sends off with two brises that say these two opinions, which is going to be the two Mount Yamim and Rav Meir. Tani Chadav, we wanted one brisa, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Shtuk Mamzer Kosher, Shtuk Chalo Pasul. If somebody, when he's called the Mamzer, he's quiet, he's kosher. And if he's called a Chalo and he's quiet, he's Pasul. That was, which one was that? That was, Tanakama, according to Rav Meir, said that a Shtuk, how did it go?
That was the
Meir
second
said
one
that-
of Rebbe Meir, right? Not the Tanakama of Rebbe Meir.
That was the blue one. That Shtuk Mamzer is kosher. That's what it says over here. That Shtuk Mamzer is kosher, right? That's going to be the second opinion in Rav Meir, the blue one. Shtuk Cholol is possible because you should have said something. Tan Yidach Shtuk Cholol kosher, Shtuk Mamzer possible. That the one who's quiet when he's called the Cholol, he is the one who's kosher. But if it's called the Mamzer, he's possible. That was the first opinion in Rav Meir. That Shtuk Cholol is kosher because he doesn't feel the necessity to answer back. Lo kasha hatanakama libid Rav Meir, ad Rav Shimon also libid Rav Meir. These two opinions we had in Rav Meir, that's the two opinions that Rav Yossi said in these two brises. So that's the end of the sugya. The whole thing is in parentheses. The whole sugya today is in parentheses. It came in because Amana Sisa came in yesterday to ask a contradiction to our Mishnah. And the Gemara came out with this new sugya about being called a name. Does he have to answer in order to defend himself? And if he doesn't, then it arouses suspicion that he knows that it's really true. If that's good, we go back with the next Mishnah. So far before we had a machlokes if a single girl is found to be pregnant, and the question is who's the boel, who's the man who was mizana with her, and she says that he's a kosher man. I know who he is. So Rav Gamliel said that she's kosher. Question if the child is also kosher, and Rabbi Yeshua said no, we don't trust her and puzzle. And we came out before that that's a bori. She's saying bori, and that's why Rav Gamliel is mekel, and Rabbi Yeshua was not samach on the bori. The Mishnah says, "Amar Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aser b'tinokas yod l'malos ma'im and ayin v'nensa." There was a story with a young girl that went down to fill up water from the spring, and she was raped. I guess that the man was waiting inside the bar over there, and he was able to rape her when she came in to get water. And the question is, who is he? We don't know who he is. And the question is, if he's now this girl, is she going to be allowed to marry a Kohen now? She's a single girl. Is she allowed to marry a Kohen? Means if the person who was ma'anaser, which is the unknown, are you going to assume that he's a kosher man? Of course, he's a Russia, that he was ma'anaser, but his yichus was a kosher, and the fact that he raped her doesn't make a puzzle to marry a Kohen. Or was he somebody that's puzzle? Maybe he was like say there's a guy, or he was an Eved, or a Mamzer, or a Nasin, might be some psul that his raping made her puzzle to marry a Kohen. Nivalola puzzle lakuna. So what's the halacha? So Yossi said a story that happened. If most of the people are kosher people, but they'd be allowed to marry Kohanim, that's not a way of saying kosher people in the town.
By the water, it's a little bit like the Sadeh. We said there's a
But
difference
no, but it's in the city. It doesn't sound like it's in the field. It sounds like it's in the city. So then you could assume that the one who raped her also was part of those kosher people, and she doesn't become pastor tikuna. You go with the robe. It's in short, you go with the robe of the city, and she's allowed to assume that the one who raped her was a kosher Jew, and she doesn't become not the kosher Jew. I don't mean kosher tzaddik. He's a Russia Jew, but he's a kosher lineage, and the fact that he raped her doesn't make her possible to marry a Kohen. You go with the robe, and the Gemara is going to be surprised because Rav Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua just finished arguing, and Rav Gamliel says that the bori is good even against a robe psulin, even if most of the people in the city. This was yesterday. Rav Shubal Levi, like kind of said yesterday, Rav Shubal Levi is the one who said Rav Gamliel's machshir even against the robe psulin, and Rabbi Yeshua's postel even against the robe ksherin. And our Mishnah says you go with the robe. The Gemara is going to wonder who's it going like. Amalei Rav Nachman, Rav Yochanan Nuri, Dama Kaman. Who's he hold like? In the earlier Mishnah, we don't have a close. Rav Gamliel, Rav Yeshua. If Rav Gamliel, I feel the robe psulim is kosher. Nami machshir. If Rav Yeshua, I feel the robe ksherin nami postel. He holds that you're not trusting her even if most of the people are kosher. Tysus points out a simple point, Lachora, that it doesn't make Gemara's kasha doesn't make sense because the Gemara of Rav Gamliel, why did they say she's kosher against the Rov Sulim? Because she said, I know who it is. She says, I know who the guy is. She's pregnant, and she says, I know who he is. It's Ploni Vakasha, who could be my cousin, whatever she says. So she says, I know who he is. That's why she's believed against the Rov. The whole city is Goyim, whatever, and you have one Jewish person over there, and she says it was him, so she's believed. Of course, you have the one said before the Bari, together with Amigu, together with maybe a Chazaka, but that's only because she says Bari, but over here, maybe, or they have the other Amigus in a row, but over here, she's not saying, but she doesn't know who it is. This girl over there that was raped inside the bar, she doesn't know who it is, so the Gemara's Kasha L'chora is not so difficult. You can answer simply that our mission is talking about there is no robe, and that's why there's no Bari, and that's why you go with the robe. But Tyson says that the Gemara is assuming there's a robe also, there's a Bari also. Even if the girl says she knows who it is, still, yeah, you need the robe. And that's the Gemara's problem, that Rav Gamliel should not need the robe. Rav Gamliel says she's believed even without the robe. Rabbi Shua says the robe wouldn't help. So the Gemara wants to know, where does Rabbi Yossi, this whole Rabbi Yochanan Menui, who's he going like? In the opinion of Rav Gamliel, opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. Amalei, so who said to who? Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman answered, Rav Achi Amar Rav Yudah Marav. Rav Yudah Marav said, the Kronos shall Sipori Hayamai. So this happened at the time of the market in Sipori. So I'll just say out the Gemara. The Gemara sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple, I think. So this is the simple shot of the Gemara. Just what? So just to explain a little bit what the concept means. The Gemara, we know the Gemara is going to go through all this. I'm just going to give us a summary of the whole Gemara on the whole page. That there's an idea called you go with robe. You know, you go with the robe, and then there's an idea called kol kavua k'mechzal mechza. That robe only helps if it moved out of the place where it was fixed, the fixed place. Something moved out of the fixed place, and then you say it came from the robe. But if the suffix you're being done on is in the place of the kfiyas, the place where all of those factors are fixed, so then you don't say robe. We'll see more about that halacha, which has a lot of application. Kol kavua k'mechzal mechza. If things are fixed in their place, you don't go with the robe. You don't care about the robe. It's always considered 50-50. Even if we'll have an example. Let's say an example. You have a street that has 10 kosher stores. 9 are kosher, and one of them is treif. And you went to buy meat in one of the stores, and you don't remember which one it is. Are you allowed to assume you got from one out of the 9? The robe says that 9 stores are kosher. So robe. So you should go with the robe and say that it's kosher. There's only one trade for butcher store. But no, since you went, the meat stayed in this place. You're the one who went into one of the stores. The meat didn't come out. You stayed in this. The meat stayed in the stores, and you took it from one of those places. So you can't say you go with the robe. Over there, it's called kavua k'mechzal mechza. Since it's in the place that it was fixed, so you don't give it that chashivas of robe, for whatever reason, and it's considered 50-50. So 50-50 is a kosher meat of treif, you're not allowed to eat it. If, for instance, the meat would not be found in the stores, not that they took the meat from the store, but it was found in the street, you found a piece of meat in the street. On that street where you have 10 butcher stores, you found a piece of meat in the street, it means it came out of one of the stores. That's called that it was piresh. It's separated from the place of the kfiyos, and over there you do go with the robe. Then you go according to the robe stores. The robe stores
means that it's in the store, one of those stores.
It was taken from one of those stores. It means the suffix. When did the suffix happen? I went to one of those stores and I bought it.
Of course, one of the kosher stores.
No, I don't know which one I went to. If I know, I know. I went to one of the stores. I don't know which one I went to. I might have gone to the treif store. I don't know. So it's not going to help the fact that they are row kosher stores because one of them is treif and kol kavua k'mechzal mechza. So we look at it like 50-50. If it means, of course, the meat was taken out of the store. I took it to home, but I'm the one who took it. So, and my suffix is where did I take it from? I take it from the Makmi Kriyos. Over there, you consider it 50-50. But if the meat was found in the street, and now the suffix is no allowed, where did it come from? So then I do say it came from the road, and I can assume that it's kosher meat. That's the so-called kol kavua k'mechzal mechza. But piresh, you go according to the road. So the point the Gemara is going to talk about is that the city, now they're talking about this girl, that she was raped by somebody in the city. It could be that it's considered kavua. The people of the city are still kavua. They didn't move out of their place. So that's considered a kviyas, and the robe wouldn't help you. Because of that, is another fact that we need sometimes, that it shouldn't be only the people of the city, but it should be a traveling group, a caravan, or some people that the visitors, the businessmen that are coming in and out, the people that are not kavua in the city. They're just passing through. They're surely considered 90. They're considered that they moved from the place. They live in the 5 cities of proximity around. They come to the city on the market day. So they came out of their place, and then surely you do with the robe. That's a better robe. The robe of the visitors is a better robe than the home people, the people that are in their hometown, because they're in the hometown, they're fixed in their place. The people that are visiting, they're out of their place. So that's called 90. That's called that they moved. They're not kavua. That's pirish. So therefore, the Gemara is going to say that even Rabbi Shua, that's how Rashi explained. Even Rabbi Shua that says you don't go with robe, that's only because he makes. Why does he go with robe? Robe's very good. Why does Rabbi Shua say don't go with robe? That if a woman said that we'll find a woman that's pregnant, a single woman that's pregnant, and Rabbi Shua says after the chosh day is possible. Why doesn't he go with robe? That's always felt out fully go with robe. The answer is because sometimes in the city, the act of the znus that happened might have been that she went to him, that the woman went to the place of the man, even if it was rape, but it could have been that she came to the place where he was and he raped her. Then it's called kavua, and only would be considered 50-50. And that's why Rabbi Shua is choshesh for that. So, but together, in our case, if there's also going to be a robe of people that are passing through, that robe is a chashuv robe. So if you have both robes, both the robe of the city and also the robe of the passing visitors, so then Rabbi Shua himself is also going to be somewhat on the robe. That's more or less today's Gemara on this whole Amud. If it makes sense, it's good. If not, if anybody wants to speak about it before we see the details, that's the Yisod of the Gemara. Rabbi Shua doesn't hold a robe in a city, even though sometimes the man did go to the woman, and then that'll be considered, it was piresh from his house. He went out of his house and he raped the girl. That's going to be considered that it went away from his place. And you'll say, who came into the street from all these houses? Most of them are Jews. But sometimes it's going to be the opposite, that the woman ended up somehow in the man's house. And then he's talking about, is this man kosher or not? We don't know, because it's Metzah on Metzah. Since it's Kavua, we don't, because even if most people in the city are Jews, kosher Jews, but since she went to the place of the Kriyos, and that's where she got raped, so we don't look at the robe, we look at Metzah on Metzah. Therefore, Rabbi Shua is only machshev more when you have a passing, a visiting robe, and that visiting robe is surely on the move, and that's considered a chashuv robe. That robe he is going to hold up. One more knech that the Gemara says, why is that not good enough alone? So you don't care about the robe of the city. The robe of the city is anyway Metzah on Metzah. They says that then you're going to be gozer the robe of the visitors out to the robe of the city. If we're going to be machshev the robe of the visitors alone without having robe of the city, we'll say robe of the city is also good, and robe of the city is not always good because sometimes they're kavua. So therefore you have to have both. You have to have robe of the city that are living over there, and also robe of the visitors that are coming are also Jewish, kosher Jews. And then with what the Gemara calls trey ruby, 2 robes, that's called the double robe. Double robe doesn't mean that it's very much. You could say that 1 robe means 51% and 2 robes means 80%. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you have more percent. The point is that you have a robe of the city, which might be kavua sometimes, which doesn't count, and you have a robe of the visitors, which is always moving. They moved out of the place that they came from, and therefore that's a chashuv robe.
Better, the people from outside?
Because they're
How do we
Jewish.
know they're Jewish?
No, we're talking about that. You know that the robe of the visitors are Jewish. You have the businessmen that come into the town. You have the market day, and we know that most of them are Jewish. They also come there. How do you call it? In Leipzig over there.
Leipzig,
I don't know. So wherever they come, we know that most of the merchants that came were Jewish. They were going also, but most of them were Jewish. So you have Leipzig itself, that there are people who live over there. Then you have also on market day, people come from outside, and they're also mostly Jews. So the ones that are coming from that, the ones that are visiting the market businessmen that are merchants that are coming in, the tradesmen that they're coming into the city, they're surely piresh, and that's a chashuv robe. The ones that live over there doesn't help us too much because they might be kavua. The people, even if they're mostly Jews in that city, but it doesn't help us because they're kavua.
Why is that worse? I'm kind of.
Let's accept that kavua, kol kavua comes out without as far. I don't know as far, but they have to accept that yisod. We're going to see this. That's what the Gemara is going to talk about. Kol kavua comes out if the robe, even though you count up all the numbers, they're robe, but since they're not moving out of their place, so then you don't consider it robe. The case of the butcher stores that I said before, that if you took meat down to one of the butcher stores, you don't know which one, you can't say robe, chances I got it from the kosher butcher store, because that's kavua. I don't have a svara for that. I'm not saying any svara, I'm just saying that that's the halacha. If anybody understands the svara, I'd like to know. But that's the Gemara's answer, that even though Rabbi Shua is not so much on robe, but when you have this double robe, not just double robe, you have the robe of the city and the robe of the travelers that are passing through, then Rabbi Shua is also somewhat on the robe. And the Gemara calls that Kronis al Tzipori Yamaisa was with the wagons. Wagon, Kronis is a wagon, means the merchants that are coming into Tzipori. The Rabbi said this, that it's only kosher. The Mishnah says you go with the robe as long as there's also a travelers. The siyah, what do we say the word siyah means? Travelers or caravan, the word siyah. And what does the siyah mean? Okay.
The sea is the chronos.
Yeah.
Karon means a
One
wagon,
is a wagon.
but- but the question is about what the word that's the word karon. We know, but we want to know what the word siyah, what the word literally.
Some means some, right?
Maybe sometimes it means a group. Okay, maybe we'll get a translation from Ostrom. Second line on the top. On the top over here, there's a test of moral, second line.
There was a group of people.
Okay, let's translate it as a group of people. Okay. Busha is to see that's only someone on the robe of the city. Only if you also have that robe of the group that's passing by is also kosher people. Rabbi also said that. First he said the words, the way he said it, that's difficult to translate to take the word literally. It says Nivelas the Kronos Ksheolakun. I meant only to highlight the 4 words, not the last word. Nivelas the Kronos Ksheolakun. Literally the words mean if she was Nivella, somebody had relations with her in the wagon, she's kosher. That doesn't make sense. The Kronos Alkavat, what's the difference when she was raped? In the wagon, out of the wagon. El Nivella's B'Shas Kronos Ksheolakun. You have to say B'Shas Kronos when there was a market day. If she was the person who was Mizana with her was Mizana in the time of the wagons coming in, means that there's a merchants coming into the city and most of them are kosher, then she's kosher lakuna. You could assume that it's one of the kosher people. But if one of the people who live over there, even and there's no passing group that's also kosher, the fact that it's most people in Zipori are Jews, kosher Jews, it doesn't help you. Then we're going to say that it's a Suffolk Mamza, a Suffolk Puzzle, because we don't know who the father is, because it could be that it's Puzzle. I don't know. Shtuki means you don't know who the father is, and you're going to say that maybe it's Puzzle. I don't know if it means a Suffolk Mamza, because the kid wouldn't be a Mamza maybe, but it would be that you don't know if he's kosher lakuna or not. The same thing as Reb Chanina said. And first thing also, he was misquoted. He said that you go according to the majority of the city, but you don't go according to the majority of the traveling group that passed through, which doesn't make sense. Just be the opposite. The traveling group is better than the people that live over there because they're moving and they're on the move and they're the ones that are kavua. Kapilaya, which way are you going? Means that that's the opposite. You're going the wrong direction. Kapilaya, towards which direction? Where are you going? It means the opposite. Tani Nai, Divani Kvi. The people that are traveling, they're the ones on the move. They're a good road. But the ones that live in the city, they're fixed in their place. Now, not such a good road. So yeah, Hani Kvi V'Kaimi, they're set in their place. And that's not a good road. So the words that Rabbi Hanina was quoted saying doesn't make sense. So we have to edit. Kapilaya means towards which? Towards where? Towards where? Towards where? Laya is where? To which means which way you're going. You're going the wrong direction. Ella, you have to amend the words of Rabbi Hanina, who was misquoted. You go according to the majority of the city, even though they're kavua, provided you also have another robe that there's also a robe of the travelers passing by are also kosher Jews. But each one alone wouldn't be enough. If he doesn't have the robe city, it's not good enough. If he does have the robe of the travelers, it's not good enough. You don't rely on the robe of the city alone and not the robe of the travelers alone. My timer. So we understand that the best one is the traveler. The travelers, that's Mamish 90 there on the move, and they came out of their cities, and that's a hush of a robe. But Xavier robe siyah of the robe here. That the reason why you don't rely on the robe of the travelers is because if you rely on that, people will say that the robe city is also good enough, and that's not so simple. The robe here nami, the more I ask, either Ka'azli Inu Lagabah, called the Pash Mubapash. What's the problem with the robe of the city? The robe of the city also should be considered a robe because if the rape happened or the zinus happened where the man went to the woman, means the man came out of his house. You have a city of Jews, kosher Jews, or most of them are kosher Jews, there's some possible also, and a man came out of his house and was mizana with a woman someplace. So then you want to know where did the man come from? That's also called pirish. He came out of his house. So that also would be you'd go with the road. So what's the problem of the city? And my answer is there's a chance that the woman meant to the man. However it happens, she went intentionally or she went and she got she went to somebody's house and she was raped over there. Whatever the case might have been, that the suffix of who the man is not because he came out of his house. It could be that she went to the place of the man, and now you're being done. Is the man a kosher man or not? That's called kavua, because we're being done on the houses that they live in, which is the rove, and that doesn't help you because that's considered kavua kamek sam metzah. Davulei kavua, b'amir observer called kavua kamek sam metzah dami. So that's the pshat in the Mishnah that the Gemara, it doesn't, you don't see it in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says Rov Ha'ir. The Gemara says it means Rov Ha'ir together with Rov Sia, and it's going according to Rabbi Yoshua, who's usually not samech on the Rov. But if you have this double Rov, the reason why he's not samech on the Rov, because maybe it's going to be kavua. But if you have this double Rov, that both the Rov of the city and also the Rov of the travelers passing through, then even Rabbi Yeshua is going to be maskim that you can rely on it even without a bori. And Taisa seems to say Rabbi Gamliel also. Now it's now you don't have Rabbi Gamliel's point about a bori. But the reason why you're samachan is because you have this good robe, the double robe. The Gemara Kasha, do you need a double robe? Or me being on Trey Ruby, you're not samachan the robe of the city. It says in the Brisa that we quoted before. What?
Trey Ruby?
2 robes.
What's robe?
Majority.
Oh, 2 robes.
But Tanya, what if there are 9 butcher stores that sell kosher meat and one sells treifa meat? This is the case I said before. You bought from one of the stores. You don't know which one you bought from. Then you're there. I guess you thought all of them were kosher. Then someone says, one of them is treif. Which store did you buy from? I don't know. So, sveika asa. You're not allowed to eat it because you have roll, because they're all kavua. It means the suffix was no allowed. Where was the suffix born? In which store did I take it from? They're all sitting there, and the meat is in the store. So that's called kavua. And then you can't say you go with the roll. Called kavua kametz al metzah. But if the meat is found in the street in front of the stores and you don't know which store it came from, there you could rely on the robe because that's not kavua, that's pirish. So what's the more asking? You made up a new gzera now that you're not going to rely even when it was nimtza because sometimes it's going to be kavua. So if that's true, so then you shouldn't rely on the case of the meat over here also, even if it was found in the street and it was pirish. But you just said that he goes there pirish to kavua. So if that's true by us, that we say that even if the man came to the woman, we're not going to say you go with the robe because maybe the woman would have come to the man. So making a gzera. So how can we hear about a meat don't make a gzera? The Gemara says, you might say, maybe the case over there is also only if you have a double robe, that you have the robe of the city, the bushers over there, 9 out of 10. And also you have that most of the deliveries, most of the meat deliveries are also kosher trucks that are coming in. And the robe of the travelers are also kosher. It's not true. That would mean only if the city doors are open. That's why the Gemara explains it. That ain't dalsos medina neulos, that the city doors are not locked, means that you have also deliveries from outside, and that would mean that most of the meat traveling through is also kosher meat, but it's not true. Rav Zera says that you're allowed to rely on the benimsa. If you found meat in the middle of the street, you're allowed to rely that it's kosher, even if there's no deliveries coming from outside. It's only this city alone, and it says that if it's the city, the stuff was made inside the store. Which store did you take it from? Then it's kavua. But if you found it in the street, then you're allowed to rely that it's pirish. So you don't make this gzera. The answer is that this whole gzera, that maybe if you're going to rely on the pirish, you're also going to rely on the kavua. That's the only gzera they made by Yuchsin over here. That the woman, you want to know if the woman is kosher, the kuna. Over here they made the gzera. We're not going to rely that the man that was mazana with her was from the robe and he came out of his house. Sometimes the woman's going to go to the man's house, and therefore it's not going to be kavua. It's not going to be pirish, it's going to be kavua. So we made a gzera not to rely even on the pirish also. But it's only by yuchsin, by other kind of halachas like by kosher meat and non-kosher meat. You could rely on the robe if it was nimsa, if it was pirish, that it came out of the makkah makviyah. So then we do rely on the robe, and you don't make this gzera. Only by yuchsin will we make this gzera. The Gemara continues more about this halacha that we just found out about kol kavua gufam Rav Zera. So Yochsin
is a bigger chama?
We make more takanas to have a good yichus. We want to make that the lineage should be good. So we elevated it not to be somewhat on the regular robe that usually we would, because sometimes it's not going to be a good robe, sometimes it'll be kavua. So we don't rely on the robe, even if the happened to be that it was pirish in that particular case, only if you have 2 robes. The robe of the city.
Then we say
then you have to have 2 robes. Otherwise, you don't have to have 2 robes. A regular case of meat, 1 robe is good enough as long as it was pirish. Kavua is not good. He says a little bit more. That this halacha that whenever it's kavua, when it's in the place of the fixed place and it didn't move away from its kriyos, so you consider it 50-50. That's even the kula also, not only the chumrah, even the kula. That's what Zera said. Where does he know that from? Where does he get it from? Because many cases we just had, they were all chumras, not kulas. There it says that if you had 9 butcher stores and all of them were kosher, and the 10th one was treif, and you bought from one of them, which is kavua, you took it from the store. It says over there after you machmir, you don't need it. This part you don't need it. That's not our subject right now. We were going the case of the kavua. That's this we could put in parentheses. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the case which is a kavua, and it says that you have to say that it's asa. Does that show that you do kavua kamexal mexal lakula? Some chumrah, that's a chumrah. We're saying that you can't eat the meat, even though 9 butcher stores are kosher, you can't eat the meat because you make it 50-50. But that doesn't show us the kula. And Abzera said even the kula also you could say that it goes down to 50-50. So what's the case? That wouldn't be a raya. From that brisa, it wouldn't be a raya. Ella, another case. This happens to be a tosefta. It says here, tosefta in Taurus. So there's a case that you don't know if it was a sheretz or not. The sheretz is like it says in the Torah, there are shmona shvatzim, and fadei, as some say, total fadei is, and that's not a sheretz. So you have a dead, you have 10 dead rodents, whatever you want to call them. 9 of them are not tamei. That's fadei. There's not tamei, but there's one sheretz, and he touched one of them. He doesn't know which one he touched. Is he tamei? So it says, that even though there's 9 Tohar ones, there's one Tameh, you don't know which one you touch, you have to be Machmir. That means you don't go with the road. That means that you go Kol Kavua and Mechsa Dami. But then again, it's a Chumrah. That's the most kasha. We know you're Machmir. We want to find out if you make a levet. Hasanami L'Chumrah, that's not a right to observe a statement who said you even make to say Kol Kavua and Mechsa. Ella, a different case, which Rashi says is also Tosefta over there in Taurus. Yitisha Shvatzim, Sfadei Achabenein. If you have 9 that are tamei, 9 tamei shvatzim, and 1 svardeya which is not tamei, and you touch one of them, he doesn't know which one it is. So it's true, it is a suffix. It's 50-50, but halacha by tamei is that suffix. Rishus yachid is tamei, rishus rabim is tamei, rishus rabim is tohar. How come you're considering it a suffix? It's really a rove. You have rove chances that it's tamei. How come in rishus rabim you make it? It must be that you say. Even the kula. That's what we found. We observed said the statement and trying to find out where he got it from. We found it. There's a Tosefta that says that when you have even 9 tamei and 1 tohar, in the Shasirabim, where Allah is that 50-50 is kosher, you consider it 50-50. So you see that you say kol kavua kamer even to be mekel. Now everybody wants to know, where do we get it from? Where do we get this halacha that kol kavua kamer sametza with the Raisa Manovan? Means where do you know from the Torah? Where's the source in the Torah that you say kol kavua kamer sametza? Chaim Baba wanted to know what's this for. I don't know this for. But the Gemara is bringing a proof from the Torah that kol kavua kamer sametza. If anybody has this for, I'd enjoy it. But the Gemara says, Amar Krua, overcome Allah. Here it's talking about that somebody killed intentionally, or if he ambushed him and he rose up against him, he killed somebody intentionally, so then you have to kill him. It's not enough to get Ari Miklat. Ari Miklat, cities of refuge is only if somebody killed unintentionally, but if he killed intentionally, so then he's Chayiv Misa. So there's a machlokus over here, Ashi is Kavalo. Rashi says this is Rav Shimon that says that what if somebody intended to kill Ruvain and he killed Shimon? He's not a great guy. He wanted to kill. But he didn't want to kill Shimon. He wanted to kill Ruvain. So Shimon says he's not Chayiv Misa. That's why he's so sure. So that's Shimon. That's Shimon, and that's what it says here. It seems to say that's the halacha. The Zion actually is Kavanah. But the Rabbanan argue. The Rabbanan say no. That it's Kavanah or Gazev or Gazev is yes Chayiv. So what are they going to do with this pasuk? Rabbi Shimon says that he ambushed him. He got up on him. What does that mean? That if he got him on the wrong guy, he wanted to kill Ruvain, kill Shimon. He's potter. But the Rabbanan argue, and they said that it's Kavanah or Gazev or Gazev is Chayiv. So what are they going to dash in this pasuk? I mean, the Rabbi Yana tried to ever go. If somebody threw a stone, means a stone that could kill, into a group of people. The word "go" means the toch. He threw it into a group of people who were standing, and he threw a what's the word when something's dangerous? It could kill. No, the act of it's a okay, whatever the word is, that he could kill somebody. He threw a stone that could kill somebody, and somebody died. So there's no Ptor that he killed one and wanted to kill the other one. We're going to Rabbanan. That Rabbanan hold that even in Skal and so it says it is a Ptor. He threw the stone into a group of people and he killed somebody, he's Potter. And you have to know why. Why is he Potter? If they're all Jews, he's not going to be Potter, because even if he wanted to kill a particular one and he killed somebody else, but he was going to kill somebody, so according to Rabbanan is Chayav. Not according to Shimon, it's according to Rabbanan. So what's the case? Must be that there's a guy over there also. There's somebody that he'd be Potter. So it's not like that he Dafka wanted to kill a Jew. It could be that he was going to kill a guy because there was a guy over there. And that's the question: how many goyim are there? What's the group made out of? Echidam, what's the case? And yeah. If someone kills a guy, he's Potter from these. So the question is, what's the case over here that makes him Potter? Because there was some goyim over there. If the case was that there were 9 goyim and 1 Jew, and he threw the stone and he killed somebody, happened to be the Jew. Is the Jew died? Is this a proof that Kol Kavua can mess on Mechza? Typically, the Ruba Goyim Nenu. Since most of them were Goyim, so when he threw the stone, the real chances were that he's going to kill a Goy. That's enough reason why he should be Potter, not because of a new Chiddush of Kol Kavua can mess on Mechza. When you threw it, and the chances were that it's going to fall on a Goy and kill a Goy, that's enough reason to be Potter. So this wouldn't be a source to say Kol Kavua can mess on Mechza. Inami, Palgo.
The group is considered Kavua or
yeah, the group is Kavua, that's true. The group is Kavua, but the Gemara says you don't see from there that Kol Kavua can mess on Metzah, because over there the robe also tells, even if you say that's considered a robe, so the robe is going. That's the reason why it's part there. You don't see from there Kol Kavua can mess on Metzah. And even if it will be 5 and 5, Inami Palgo, even if it will be equal amount of Goyim and Jews, and if he throws it in, he kills the Jew, his Potter is because of the Fashas Lakil. That if you have a suffix, so you're not like, you can't kill him. He can't do capital punishment himself only if you're sure. And since when he threw it, it's considered a suffix. He didn't know who he's going to kill. So 50-50 chance it's going to be a Jew or a guy. We'll see he couldn't kill him. But Sricha must be the Katishi Yisrael. The case was they threw it into a group that has 9 Jews and 1 guy. And if you say with the robe, then he should be Chayiv Misa, because most chances were that he's going to kill a Jew. It's considered that he was aiming for a Jew. But since it says that he's Potter, that cannot go Kavua. The reason why he's Potter, the pasuk says that Arv will come Allah, and you need a pasuk to tell you that Zarek Eben Lego is Potter. That means in a case where there's more Jews, 9 Jews and 1 guy, and the pasuk still says he's Potter. Why? Because we consider it 50-50. We consider the Kavua can Metza, and therefore it's not. And then once it's Metza, we say that the stuff in the Pashas Laka, you're not going to kill him. So the Gemara proved Kol Kavua can Metza Metza. Again, I still don't understand this far, but that's the halacha that the Gemara learns out. Kol Kavua can Metza Metza. That's the end of today's Gemara, and Bez Hashem to be continued tomorrow. We got till 3 lines from the bottom, Itmar, after the word K'mechtam Metzadami. Yashikach, everybody. Thank you. We'll be back in a couple of